the Panamanian people play the most important role in our decision making. The canal is extremely important for Panama. So the benefit that any expansion on any program that we put forward has to benefit the people.
Many of the improvements are already underway. 100 more powerful locomotives, each costing $2 million, now guide the ships through the locks. A fleet of stronger, more maneuverable tugs is already escorting vessels, like this 80,000-ton container ship, through the narrowest part of the canal. Communications between ships and canal operators, so vital to safety, have been updated. A global positioning satellite system helps engineers to monitor the movements of many ships in the canal with pinpoint accuracy. And in the near future, an onboard tracking system will become mandatory. But these improvements are the easiest parts of the renovation. Far more difficult ones lie ahead, such as widening the canal where it cuts through Panama's mountainous spine. It is a daunting challenge, both in its scale and in its projected cost, $7 billion. Panamanians could be gambling with the very future of their country. And yet, do they really have a choice? Bulldozers will have to clear-cut thousands of acres of jungle at both ends of the canal. Excavators will need to dig deep into the earth, through thousands of feet of unstable rock and mud. Millions of tons of concrete will have to be poured. But the biggest engineering challenge of all will be building brand new locks next to the current ones. Locks big enough to handle the new megaships. These new locks will need to be 3 times the size of the originals, making them the world's largest.
We are using technology today that back in 1904 didn't exist. And I think that we can solve the engineering problems that we are facing in an engineering way. I think that there are solutions to that.
Yeah, what's the status of South 10 tugboats?
Back on the oil tanker, 2 hours have passed since Dave guided the ship out of the locks and into Gatun Lake. It's a freshwater lake that covers an area 6 times the size of Manhattan. The lake is the great engine that powers the canal. It pumps 55 million gallons of water into the locks to lift and lower each ship through the canal. With up to 40 transits a day, that's 2 billion gallons gone each day that must be replenished. Gatun Lake also provides fresh drinking water for over 1 million Panamanian people. To create the lake, engineers built the Gatun Dam, then the largest in the world, across the Chagres River. It was a remarkable feat of extreme engineering. The lake is replenished by Panama's heavy rains. But there's a problem. Global warming is creating irregular rainy seasons. Low rainfalls cause the water level in the lake to drop, preventing ships from crossing with their full load. They must offload cargo to reduce their draft. Ironically, too much rainfall also causes major problems. Hydraulic engineer Carlos Vargas is responsible for maintaining the canal's water levels.
If we couldn't open the gate and the lakes go too high, the locks itself will be flooded, and the Panama Canal operation will have to be stopped to repair and to release the water, and that causes damage to the clients and to the image of the Panama Canal.
Ideally, the water level on the lake should be 85 feet above sea level. Senor Vargas sees that today the level has climbed to a dangerous 87 feet. He calls for immediate action.
Hola, este es Carlos Vargas, manager de hidrología. IP 2204-428, por favor.
Enormous engines inside the dam wall now lift one of the dam's 52-ton steel gates. Within 5 minutes, 20 million gallons of water surge out into the spillway on their way to the sea. And the water level falls to a safe 85 feet. Coming up on Extreme Engineering, the canal's relentless battle against landslides. Meanwhile, the oil tanker has made its way across Gatun Lake and is about to enter one of the most treacherous sections of the canal, the Gaylord Cut. This is the narrowest part of the canal, a twisting, turning channel cut through Panama's mountainous spine. This is where Dave's skills get their toughest tests. These mountains were the reason why the canal project almost never happened. The idea seemed so simple. Just dig a ditch 50 miles long by 500 feet wide, and presto, you've connected the Atlantic and the Pacific. But the mountains of Panama were not conquered so easily. They defeated the first attempt. It was the sunny optimism of the early Industrial Revolution that led the great French businessman Ferdinand de Lesseps to tackle the project in 1873. De Lesseps had just come off another engineering triumph, constructing the Suez Canal in Egypt. There, workers had been able to dig a ditch at sea level through the flat Egyptian desert. But Panama presented far more problems than de Lesseps ever imagined. Not only the mountains, but a living threat as well: malaria and yellow fever. At the time, scientists didn't know that these deadly diseases were carried by mosquitoes. Workers died at an alarming rate. After 10 years, the French had finally had enough. By then, 20,000 men were buried in the jungles of Panama, and de Lesseps' business and reputation lay in ruins. Nature had won the first battle, but the war had just begun. The next visionary to take up the cause of a Panama Canal was a real soldier, Theodore Roosevelt. Roosevelt chose John Stevens, a brilliant railway engineer, as the chief of the Panama Canal project in 1905. Stevens had never built a canal before, but he knew how to think big. The first thing he did was to stop all construction work and focus on the health of the workers. Stevens threw all his resources into eradicating yellow fever and malaria from Panama. It worked. In just a year, the fumigation army had eradicated the diseases. Now Stevens could tackle the engineering problems. First on the list was the treacherous Chagres River, which produced killer floods. Rather than fight the river, as de Lesseps had done, Stevens decided to exploit it. He proposed damming